I'm your host, Janice Jokkel, with Sharing Solutions, the how-tos in business. I have an amazing next guest. Diane is a dear friend, but also she is an expert at what she does. She is going to share some tips on the most important pieces to your business, and that is selling. Welcome, Diane.
Thanks so much for having me here, Janice.
So what I would like to do today is just share some solutions that you feel that you use in your everyday life of teaching, because you're a teacher, right? Mm-hmm. You're a trainer, and you absolutely take on business owners and get them to where they need to be. So share with us some of the, I have to say, she is an author too, international speaker. She's a lot of things. She's very humble too. So share some stuff out of your book.
Okay. So the first thing I will say is when you are selling, stop talking.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the biggest mistakes that people make. Drives me out of my mind, right? Which is why I wrote the book, actually. So salespeople have a tendency to think that they have to go in and do a big presentation and be all slick and convincing and all of those things. And what they don't realize is the person they're talking to isn't listening to them.
No.
Right?
Right.
Because they don't care.
Right.
They have their situation. They have their problem. The best thing that a salesperson can do is listen actively, intentionally, and be quiet.
Yeah.
And really listen to what they're telling you. Lots of questions, right? We have a lot of things we need to know inside and outside of the situation that we solve. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's like the biggest change of mindset.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Just totally other way of looking at it. Be curious.
Yeah, be curious. And active listening is a skill,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Because you and I have been in sales for a long time, and what I've learned over the course of time is you have to connect, right? I teach too with you, and we connect in all different ways. But the second, the closer piece to that is the L is listening and learning. And salespeople like to just get anxious to share their excitement about whatever, their widget or their service or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're right. They shut down because the conversation is not about them.
Right.
It's about the client or prospect that they're talking about, or
Yes.
to be able to find out if they're a good fit or not.
Right.
Right? And so
Right.
it's like, shut your mouth.
Yes. Well, some people are raised to believe that if they're convincing enough,
Right.
if they can convince the prospect that they can't live without whatever this product or service is,
Right.
then of course they'll buy. And then they're amazed when the prospect doesn't buy, when
Right.
they ghost them, right? When they can't. And it all goes back to that always be closing mindset, right? From Glengarry Glen Ross. My thing is always be curious.
Always be curious.
If you are always curious, no matter where you are,
Right.
no matter what you're doing,
Right.
who you're talking to, you'll be more magnetic.
Right.
More people will want to be around you.
Right.
And you will really be able to identify the people you want to be around.
Yeah.
And the people you want to be working with.
Right. That is amazing. So share with our viewers today a couple of the books that you have. So you've titled several books now.
Yeah, I have, technically I have 3.
Okay.
So my first book was Lemonade Stand Selling. And my viewpoint was selling is as easy as it was when you had a lemonade stand when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Right? Let's get rid of all the nonsense. My second book is Expert Insights, which is 10 episodes for my podcast. Mm-hmm. And my third and most recent book is Succeed Without Selling. The more you think about selling, the less you'll sell. Mm-hmm. So, and I have to say is my favorite.
It is awesome. There's so many nuggets of knowledge. So you shared a couple things about active listening. But if we have a viewer that is contemplating career changes and going into selling, or, I say that selling is not a job, it's a journey, right? And everybody's in sales. I don't care if you're trying to sell your mom on going out, or your teacher that you need a better grade, or you're selling a widget or a service. Everybody from the CEO down to the janitor in a company is selling something, whether it's an idea or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Anything. And so Give us some words of wisdom. If we've got a viewer today that's contemplating on moving, or they're a business owner that just is stuck, like, give us some words of wisdom that you would want to depart with our viewers that would help them.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say, there's a couple. So the first thing I would say is pick your target. Don't be afraid to pick a target market. You can have more than one, but for starters, pick one, because then you can focus on it. Do your research. Before you ever do outreach, research who they are. Learn as much as you possibly can about them. And when you decide to do the outreach, do it for a meeting, not a sale.
Yeah.
Right? It changes your whole posture. It's calmer. It's easier. Everything's great about it. And that's all you really want. You want a conversation with them.
Right.
And the more you know about them, the more you're going to be able to have a meaningful conversation.
Right.
There's two more things. The next one is really have a lot of questions and push for the answers. You need to know the answers to those questions before you can identify whether it's a good fit. So don't be afraid to ask them. And if people don't want to tell you, don't be afraid to push a little. You can do it politely. You can do it. You're allowed to say, help me understand why this is something you don't feel comfortable talking about, right? Because they have to realize that you mean it, right? That you really want to understand them, how they make decisions, if they have a budget, if they've had experiences like this before.
And if there's other decision makers in the process.
Absolutely.
Because you may be talking to an influencer instead of the decision maker.
That's exactly right. So, speaking of that, please do not ask, are you the decision maker? Because everybody hates that question.
You have to assume they are.
Right. But you can say, would you mind sharing with me your decision-making process? How are you planning to make this decision? Okay? That's so much softer, I'll say.
Right.
They'll tell you, and then you'll know, are there other people involved, right? Because you're listening to them, so you're going to hear all of these things.
Yeah.
And then you may have another question that you need to ask. Like, I can't script the entire thing.
Right.
But when you are in the moment, you're really listening, just realize that you need to know those answers. And I will give you two questions that I think are critical in every sales setting. The first one is, what will this do for you or your company, depending on who you're selling to, when you make this decision? Okay? Whether it's with me or with someone else. But when you move forward with this, what will it do for you or your business? Because it gets them thinking and articulating out loud the value of
building the value for it. Yes.
The second question is, what will the impact be if you don't? Because that's the flip side.
Yeah.
Right? And if I can get them to really think about, oh, well, there's an impact. It could have a financial attachment to it, whatever it is. So
cost savings, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, okay, the investment's going to be $5,000. What I heard was, if you don't move forward, the cost to your organization is going to be at minimum $20,000. So whether you go with me or not, what I'm hearing is, right? So they're owning that. Now they can see it's an investment worth making because of the cost if they don't. So those are two good questions. The last thing is this, follow up.
Oh. Preach it, baby. Let me tell you, you've got an opportunity. They gave you the opportunity. They gave you the time, and then you abandon them.
Right, because you got busy doing something else.
Yeah, going to chase the other lead that you thought you needed to go instead of the leads you already have in your CRM.
That's exactly right? You got to follow up with them. You got to follow up with everybody. You got to follow up in every situation. You have to have it on your calendar so that you're sure you do it.
And then on their calendar, the next steps. Yes.
Before you leave the conversation.
Yes.
Make sure there's a next step and you both know what it is and they
both agree to it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We could sit here and talk sales all day. But I am just loving this conversation. If you want more sharing solutions, the how-tos in business, stay tuned to our next episode. We're going to have an amazing person that talks about some things that you have to critically implement into your business. Until then, toodles.